So we have a cover for the jack to keep water off. Under here, these are your switches. There's a light switch, and this is to raise and lower the jack. There's also a plug where you can put the hand crank in, so you can manually crank that if there's no power. Under here, of course, are your propane tanks. Okay, your propane tanks, this is where your regulator is located. This lets you select which tank you're going to use. There's a little pointer there. You can point left or right. And right now it's green, as you can see. So we do have gas in the left tank. When the tank runs out, that'll turn red. And you can remove these and get them refilled. You'll also see there's 2 notches in the lock bar. And when you're taking the tanks on and off, for the cover to fit properly, as you can see, one tank has to be in the outer notch and one tank has to be in the inner notch, and that'll space these correct so that the cover slides over properly. Now when you're not using the RV, it's a good idea to shut the tanks off. There's also below, there's a battery shut-off switch, and that'll shut off the DC batteries out front here, just so they don't go dead while the unit's being stored. That'll prevent any discharge. But anytime you're towing or you're camping, you're going to have the switch on. Obviously, it's just really made for storage. One more thing I'll just point out to you. So I'm looking down below the frame, and I'm going to zoom in. You're going to see here there's a circuit breaker. So that little black dot, that is the reset button for the circuit breaker. There's another one below as well. And those are for, well, one of those runs your slide rooms and the other runs the rest of the camper. So if you have an issue with something not working, you may want to check those. On this side, this is the port to fill your fresh water tank. This is used so you can carry your own onboard water if you're going to a state park or someplace where there's no water provided. That allows you to fill from an external water source like at your house. Now if you come home from camping, underneath you'll see there's a drain valve, and that's to drain off any of your unused water from your fresh water tank. And here's your hitch, which we're going to go through separately. And this is the electric cord. This is the power cord to plug in the RV. These 2 storage areas, this gets you underneath your booth dinette, and behind the pantry closet there's also a large storage area that can be used. So this is where your electric cable plugs in. There's also a port here if you have cable or satellite. You can hook those up as well. This is the wastewater discharge, and you'll see 2 handles. There's a large black handle and there's a small gray handle. And this is where your hose goes when you drain off your wastewater. Black handle, that's your toilet waste. The gray handle, that empties your sink and shower waste when you're done camping. Now there's also, you'll see a port right here, and this is your tank flush. This is to flush your black tank. So when you're through camping and you've hooked up your black water hose, while that's draining, you can connect in here with fresh water, and that will rinse the tank out for you so that it's clean. This port here, City Water, this is the main port you leave connected when you're at a campground. You're going to connect your hose into this port, and then you'll have direct water inside the unit. Now remember, if you go to a state park where there is no hose, that's when you pre-fill through that port. That fills your freshwater tank. That's if you go to a state park where there's no water. This one is for a direct water connection that you're going to get at your campsite. This port is the antifreeze inlet. This is used, I mean, it's the same type of connection, but this is only used during winterization. That's to pump antifreeze through the system before it freezes. This is the vent for your fridge. This is the vent for your water heater. Now these open so you can get in and do maintenance, but these are all controlled from the inside, so you really don't have to touch anything out here. This is just here for ventilation and for maintenance. That's the outside shower connection. Over here is the vent for your furnace. That's for the heat, and again, controlled from the inside. You really don't have to mess with anything over there. This is an outlet, and there's also a TV port there if you want to hook up an outside TV. This bracket, you can remove your TV from inside and you can hook it up over here. This is the vent for the stove, and if you look in the center here, there's a flap, and this opens and closes so the stove will vent. But when you're driving down the road, you can keep that thing snapped shut. Now this is the work table. That's an outside little work table. And that goes right on the rail. So you'll see right here, this rail. That's where that little cable attaches to. Also in here is, this is the bike rack for the ladder, or you can put chairs on there. There's directions in here, kind of how to use that. That's your starter kit that contains the hoses and things. We're going to go through that at the very end of the video. So a couple things in here. Down here, there's two 12-volt outlets. You can charge your cell phones if you want. There's also a light switch, and this turns on these overhead lights. You can run these lights. You'll be able to reach them, you know, from the bed if you like. So you can turn on your lights real quick. So right now, this is locked up, the Murphy bed. I'm gonna splice in a pre-recorded video, and I'm gonna show you how to use the Murphy bed in this unit in just a second. I do want to show you, this does have footrests, so when you're sitting here, there's a handle right here, and this brings up the footrest. Now when you go to close the footrest, it's important that you don't push straight down. You want to pull this inward. So you can see it folds in. But if you push down, it doesn't go down, and you don't want to force this down. Always make sure you use a pulling motion in order to close that. So table's up right now. This, of course, before you travel, you're going to want to collapse this. I'm going to splice in a pre-recorded video showing you how to raise and lower the table. So your refrigerator, we're going to open the doors. There's little latches right here, and it says push. And this you push in with your thumb, and that's how you access these doors, okay? On the top of the fridge, you'll see an on-off button. That's to turn the fridge on and off. Of course, while it's on, you'll see you have a light that comes on in here. And it should read auto up here. This little light that says auto should come on. If it doesn't, you can tap this second button also. Push that into auto. And auto means it's going to run on electric first if it's available. Right now I have this plugged in, so this is going to work off electricity. However, if we didn't have electric here, it would automatically go to gas, and that's what auto means. It will switch between gas and electric as it's needed. You can manually switch it as well, and that's what the second button is here for, but in reality, leave it on auto and it can change back and forth as it's needed. These refrigerators take a few hours to get cold, so make sure that you turn this thing on, you know, a day ahead of time so that it can get going. This is the thermostat for the heat and air conditioner. And this is very simple. You set your temperature on the top, and then down here you're going to push it either to heat or cool. Very simple. You can also run fan only, and that'll run the fan just to circulate air, but it won't actually change the temperature. If you want it, you know, hotter or colder, you push this over to cool or heat. There's also a fan speed switch over here, and that comes into play when you're using the air conditioner. This is your air conditioner, by the way. There's 2 speeds for the fan. So nighttime, you can maybe put it down to low, and that'll quiet down a little bit. It's usually a little cooler at night anyway. You can also, during the day, slide this back and forth, and this opens the main outlet on the air conditioner. And during the day, you know, when it's really hot, you'll want to open these, and this sends most of the air directly out of the air conditioner where it's the coldest. When they're closed, that's going to force the air to come through the ducts, so now you get air all the way to the front of the unit, so you get better distribution that way. But if it's not cool enough for you, open these up, and that'll cool this off for you. So in here, there's a foot pedal on the side of the toilet. This, if you push halfway, that fills with water, and all the way will flush. This toilet, or RV toilets, they do not automatically fill with water like a household toilet does. These you have to manually hold a pedal for a few seconds so that you're adding water into the system. There's a switch here, so that's to turn on your light. There's also a crank here, and this will raise the roof vent. This has a cover over it too, by the way, so you could have this open even in the rain, this fan, and you won't have any water come through. And then this turns on your fan. This is 4 speeds, so there's a low, you know, medium, and a high speed you can activate with this. I'll shut that off for the time being. There's also a ground fault outlet in here. Now that's in case, you know, if something gets wet, it'll shut off the electrical outlets. That outlet will actually turn all of the plugs off in this RV. So if something's not working, remember to come into here and to check that outlet. This is a lock just when you're driving to keep the doors together. These doors are magnetic, so you have to push them apart and break the seal here, and you'll see they kind of snap together. Yeah, that's because this is just like a magnet in here. So this, by the way, is the grill, and it goes on that rail outside. Remember, this camper comes with the grill, so you can cook outside if you want. So that's your shower fixture. And, you know, this, you just turn on your water there, and you know, come out of the shower. That's going to operate just like a normal fixture when this is in the down position. Okay, so when that's down, this is going to operate just like a regular shower. Now this does have what they call the shower miser, which is a water saving feature. And what this does is, so let's say you were camping at a state park and you didn't have a hose connection. So the only water you have is what's available in your freshwater tank. Well, to get the most, you know, to get the best use out of that, before you take a shower, what you're going to do is flip this up and then turn on your faucets. And once you flip that up, that stops the water from coming out of the shower head, and it actually goes back to your tank. And what it does, it's going to preheat the water for you. And actually, once it heats up, this changes color. It's going to turn white. Once it's white, that's telling you the water's warm. Then you flip this down and you'll receive hot water from the shower head instantly with no delay. So the purpose of that is so that before you step into the shower, you're not going to turn this on and stick your hand in here and wait for your water to warm up, because you're going to send a couple of gallons of water down the drain that you're just wasting it. So this is designed to recirculate that water until it's warm enough for you to step into the shower. And the goal of this system, again, is to save a couple gallons of water if you only have a limited supply. Now, when you're at a campground and you're connected to the hose, you're just going to leave this down and you're going to operate it like a regular shower. This is not so much for comfort as it is for saving water. But the system only operates when you're using water from your tank. So, again, when you're at the campground, connected to their hose, you're not going to use this. You're just going to leave it down. But if you go to a state park and you have water in your tank that you're trying to maximize, that's when you can flip this up to preheat your water if you choose. And you don't have to. You can leave it down if you want and just use it like a regular shower, but it is there available to help you save a little water. In here is some of the accessories. This is all the paperwork that comes with the unit. This is the propane hose. This is to connect that gas grill. There's also an extra cable wire if you want to put the TV outside. There's a radio remote. There's a heated mattress remote. There's also a water filter included if you want to use the water filter. And this is optional. You don't have to install this, but it does come with it. If you take this little blocker panel down, you'll see there's a cartridge and there's a little wrench there too. And this is to accept that filter if you like. Again, you don't have to use it, but it does come with the filter. And you can leave the filter in all season, and that will that'll filter any water that comes into the unit. This cabinet here, also there's another removable blocker panel. Now these are in here because they don't want you using these for storage. This one is to access your water heater. Again, if that's got to be serviced, we can get into it through there. So that's what's down there, just to point out to you. So your TV, this is on a swivel bracket. You can kind of pull this and angle it. You can see that. You could kind of angle it towards where you want to use it. Behind the TV, you'll see there's a green LED on, and there's also a little button right next to that. And if you push that button, it turns the light on and off. But what that really does is it turns your antenna on and off. Now this camper, you can connect to cable. If you connect it to cable, you're going to turn this off. All right, but if there's no cable, then you're going to leave it on. And that will allow the TV to pick up the local stations. Now, one of the things with these TVs, whenever you move this to a new location, you have to run a scan. And I want to show you how to do that. So on your remote, you'll see there's a menu button. And I've done this already, so I'm going to get my local stations. But if you move this to a new state, you're going to want to do this again. So you're going to push menu on your remote. And using the arrows, I went too fast. Using the arrows, you're going to go over to channel, and then you're going to scroll down to auto scan. Auto scan will find all your local stations and put them into the TV for you. Your radio, we'll turn this on. This is going to go to FM mode first. These are your speakers over here, 1 and 2. 1 is inside, 2 is outside. And you can put both on together if you want, and they will play everywhere. There's also a Bluetooth mode, BT. That's if you have music on your phone, you'd like to play that, you can do that. And if you hit this mode button a few times, you have to go over to TV Audio 2. And that plays the TV audio will come out of the speakers now. Sounds much better. Sounds much better doing it that way. This also has a CD and DVD player built in, so you can play movies on there through the TV if you'd like. To turn this off, just hold it down. It's going to say standby, and then it's going to shut off. The TV, you'll see this swing bracket. Make sure you push this in towards the wall, you know, before you drive away with it, okay? That way it's secure. It'll snap all the way into the wall. So the stove, whenever you're driving, the glass is down. Make sure you open this when you're gonna cook. I'm gonna light all these top burners just to show you that. So we're going to turn these knobs on. This is your sparker. You just push this in, and this lights your top burners. All right, so that's pretty simple. You know, anytime you use this, you're going to want to run that fan, you know, that little exhaust fan right up here. That's the fan. Remember, make sure the flap is open outside too. I'm going to turn these off, show you how to use the oven. So this is the oven knob. The oven you have to turn to where it says pilot. And for the oven you have to hold this in with your thumb, and you have to hit your sparker. Now when I say hold this in with your thumb, you have to rotate this so that it lines up, and you'll feel the knob, it clicks, and now it won't turn. And that's where you have to push it in. So see how it's able now to push in? If you don't have this lined up, it won't push in, and you won't get it lit. So make sure you find that right spot where it pushes in. All right, I'm gonna prop the camera up so you can kind of see what's going on here. Okay, so I'm gonna hold that knob in, and I'm hitting the sparker. And you see now that blue flame? So that's your pilot light. So you have to keep holding the knob for 15 seconds. So I'm still holding it. Okay, now I'm gonna let go of the knob. And now I'm gonna try a temperature. So I'll put this on 350. And the main burner should light here. And now this is actually gonna heat up for us, okay? Now when you're through with the oven, go all the way to off, and you can see the pilot light goes off now entirely. And you wanna make sure when you're not using this that you shut it down entirely. Tray comes out too, you can move this around to the different positions. There's a couple different height settings there. Okay. And remember, when you're driving, make sure you lower this and keep that closed for driving. Now this is the main panel when you walk in the door. These are your light switches. So interior, this turns on these ceiling lights. These lights, by the way, these have a button on them. You can turn them off individually. So if you don't want all your lights on, you know, you can go tap them and turn them off. There's an extra light over here you can put on. There's a light over here you can put on. But this switch, that kind of runs the ceiling lights for you. The porch light and the awning light are outside. Porch light's that yellow light. Awning light is the strip that's under the awning. Wi-Fi turns on the Wi-Fi booster. The way that works is if your campground has Wi-Fi. So the way the Wi-Fi works is if your campground has Wi-Fi, you can switch this on and you'll see this pop up on your phone, and there's a password you're going to type in, or a computer, phone or computer. There's also an address here, and you're going to type that into your browser. That will take you to the control panel for the Wi-Fi Ranger, where you can then configure it to work with your campground's existing Wi-Fi. So that's how you run that if you want to do it. These open and close the awning in the slide room. This will show you how much water is in your holding tanks. So for example, if you wanted to check your black water tank, you push black and you can see it says empty. Fresh water, if you want to see how much fresh water you have left. Tank heater, this heats your holding tanks in the underbelly. This tank heater is for cold weather environment. That will heat the tanks in your underbelly, so hopefully they stay warm and they don't freeze up. These two switches here will turn on your water heater, and on this RV there's two modes. You can run gas water heater or electric water heater. Electric, of course, you have to be plugged in for that to operate, but the gas will work anywhere. So if you go somewhere and there's no electric, you know, you can run it on gas, and that'll make gas hot water. Water pump, this is a pressure pump, and the pump is used to create water pressure if you don't have a hose in your campground. So this would come into play if you're at a state park, and so before you left, you put water in your camper at home, you filled your freshwater tank. But once you get to the campground and you're set up, you're gonna leave that switch on, and that will create water pressure in your system so you can use the sink in the shower. If you go somewhere with a hose, if you go to a campground, you know, that has a hose that you're hooking up to, you don't use the pump, because you already have, once you hook up a hose, you already have pressure coming in. So the pump is only if you're standalone, like if you're in a state park. You know, they don't give you water there. You have to bring it. You have to bring it with you. Okay. And one thing on these water heater switches too, you know, I'm turning them on and off here just to show you, but we don't want to leave these on right now because we're not connected into water. You know, I put some water in for testing and to flush it, but we're disconnected and drained right now. And it's important that you don't run your water heater dry. Always make sure your water's connected and your water's flowing, and you know, make sure you have good water pressure before you turn on the water heater, because you can damage it if you run it dry, and you want to just be careful with that. There's a crank right here. This is to rotate your TV antenna. So your TV, if you're not getting a good signal here, you can kind of rotate this antenna around until you pick up a better signal. Okay, if you guys have any questions, please call, email. You can also text our main number, and if you send me a text, I'll be able to get it. I can respond to you. So even if we're closed, if you're going through here, if you have a question with something or you're not sure, please reach out and ask. We'll be happy to help. right now I have the awning extended all the way, and this is great for a sunny day. If it's windy or stormy, you're going to want to close this thing up. Don't leave it out and risk it. You can manually lower this if it's a light rain. To do that, grab it right here, and you're just going to pull it straight down, and then you tighten this knob. And get the knob tight, and now you can see we've created some pitch, and that's good for light rain to keep water. You can do that on both sides of this awning to lower it. But if it's a heavy rain, you're going to want to close this thing. Be careful with it. Normally these knobs, you leave them loose, and that allows this to kind of flex and move around a little as it's needed, you know, as you're going through. So the steps, make sure the door's open all the way for your steps when you open and close these, because you don't want it to rub on the door. You see these just lift in, and then you would close the door. When you lower them, this little pin, you can pop that pin out to adjust the legs. So right now I have 4 holes. Depending on the ground, you may have to adjust those so that the steps are flat and they don't rock. The first time you close the door, you want to look down here that there's adequate clearance, because as you can see, if you have the step too high, it's going to hit the door, and you don't want to damage any of that. So just the first time you close the door, make sure that you don't have the step up too high, and once you see that you got a gap down there, you're pretty much good to go. Okay, so before traveling, you're going to want to collapse this table. So to do that, the easiest way, of course this is going to be a little tricky with one hand, but the easiest way is to lean the table up on its side, and then you can get to the release mechanism. So you're just going to pull that up and it'll click. And then if you push here with your hand, this will fold the legs in, and then you're just going to lay this back down, and then it's going to sit right on these holders right here. Okay, hold it in place. All right, so that's set down for travel. And then to make it in a bed, you're just going to rearrange the cushions. You'll see there's a little Velcro back here, and you should put your hand back here and remove that Velcro gently. So, you know, don't just grab the cushion and yank it, because you don't want to rip the Velcro stitching. So be gentle when you remove those. On top of the slide out, and actually there's a sticker right there. It says place slide lock here. So what you do, you put one end over there. And I need 2 hands. I'm not going to be able to demo this that well. See if I can get a shot of this now. So this is the slide out. See, slide out lock. One end's against the wall of the camper, and the other end is against the slide out flange. Once it's in place, you rotate this bar 2 or 3 times until it's tight. And that's just to make sure that this is closed nice and tight when you're going down the road. Okay, in the bucket is your starter kit, and I'll go over some of the items in here with you. So this is a wash and wax. This is used on the exterior. This is a non-abrasive cleaner. It's something that's safe to use on the roof, the awning, your car. It's a nice soapy cleaner to use to keep it looking nice. There's also some RV marine toilet paper. Now this paper is special for RVs because when it sits in your holding tank, it will dissolve, and that's to prevent clogging and to prevent fouling the sensor that tells you how much water's in the tank. So make sure you use RV marine paper when you're out camping. There's also a 25-foot freshwater hose, and this is just like a garden hose, except this is drinking water safe. This is what you use to put water into your camper. And this is a waste hose, so this is what's used to empty the camper. On the other side, remember where you had the cap, where your black and gray valves are. You take the cap off, this screws on, the other end goes into the port in the ground. This is the electric adapter. This goes on the end of the cord, and this converts from a camper plug, which is a 30 amp, down to a 15 amp, so you can plug this in at home or with an extension cord if you need to. Inside this bag are 4 pouches or 3 pouches of the chemical for the toilet. And before you go camping, you take 1 pouch, you flush it down the toilet, and that stays in your holding tank while you're camping. The last item is the water pressure regulator. This screws on to the faucet at the campground before you connect your hose. And that's to limit the water pressure coming into your camper so that it doesn't damage anything inside the unit.